I've done the Western Conference predictions. I've done the Eastern Conference predictions. Now it's time for me to predict who I think will win each of the awards in this upcoming NBA season. Let's get it out of the way. MVP. This year, I think Luka Doncic is going to be the guy to win it. Often, to win an MVP, you'll require some form of postseason success. Doesn't always need to be winning that championship, but you do need to show that you can make a deep run quite often. And I think with that late finals run last year, I just think he's going to have the confidence to carry through. I think the Mavericks will be good this year as well, which is obviously going to play a big part. I think they'll be one of the top seeds in the West. And so having that swell around him, he'll get the stats, you know that. And so I think this award's going to be his to win. Often, I think fans and media have kind of been waiting for him to have that MVP year that we all know he's pretty much gonna have. It felt inevitable given how talented he is while still being so young, and I think this is going to be the year. Coming in the top three, I think it's going to be Luka. Then I think Shai's going to be up there because the OKC Thunder will once again be towards the top of the standings in the Western Conference. I just think they're going to be unreal. They'll rack up the season wins, and Shai will be a big part of that. And so I think him and Luka, I think, are the two favorites currently in the betting, and I do think they'll be the top two come the end of the season. Third, I've actually got Giannis. I think he'll come out with a point to prove, really show that he hasn't taken a step back, which since the championship run, the Bucks have kind of fallen back a bit. They've kind of been underwhelming. Giannis has been very good, but not to that same MVP standard he was prior. I think this is the bounce back year for him. I think the Bucks will be good. He'll build that connection with Dame, and so I think he'll be back in those MVP conversations. A dark horse for MVP this year, I've got Jason Tatum. I think he'll be up there. I just think the drive of not winning Finals MVP last year and not performing to that level created such a negative media swell around him when the team finally achieved what they've been so close to doing so many times in his tenure there. And so I think that, accompanied with the Olympics just being benched, not playing, the swell that surrounded that, I just think he's going to come out with a point to prove and go off and really aim to get it wrapped up and go for that MVP trophy. I'm not sure he's going to be able to, just because I think that team is so good that he might struggle to stand out. To be honest, unless he's really able to assert himself and take that extra step up than what he's done in recent years, I think that may be what holds him back, but I definitely think he could be a dark horse to win it. Defensive Player of the Year, I've got Anthony Davis winning it. This is a bit of a homer pick. I do just really want to see him win it as a Lakers fan, but I just think he's been so good defensively for so long this year, and I just think he'll really come out with a point to prove. I think this will be the year where it does make that jump to being a bit more of his team, just rather than LeBron's, in the way that JJ Redick has spoken about wanting to utilize Anthony Davis more. I think the Lakers will also be a better defense than they were last year, and so that'll help him because they finished 17th in the defensive standings last year, and you just got to be better. If you're going to win Defensive Player of the Year, you need the rest of the players to contribute, and so I think that will help Anthony Davis out, and it'll be one of those kind of longevity awards, I imagine, where he'll be able to get an award that we all know his defensive abilities quite frankly deserve for his career. So I think Anthony Davis will win the Defensive Player of the Year this year. I've then got Bam and Wemby as the other two in the top three. I just think the media and the voters will already be willing Wemby to be in those conversations. He'll be amazing defensively. The Spurs will be slightly better. He's going to get the blocks and be such a disruptor defensively. He's so strong there, and he being 7'6" or whatever he is, he's got that advantage. Bam is just such an enigma defensively, being able to swap so well. I think he'll have another big year, and I can see it kind of being a case of Anthony Davis finally gets his this year. Bam gets his next year, and then Wemby kind of wins until voters get sick of giving him the award every year. So I think they'll be the other two in the top 3. Dark horse for me is actually another Celtics dark horse. I've got one of Drew Holiday or Derek White. I couldn't really decide between the two as to who I think could do it. I think a dark horse winning it is basically one of the guards. And when think about defenders or guards and winning defensive player of the year, the best ones who could come to mind are those Celtics backcourt. The trouble will be that they're so good together that will one be able to stand out enough from the other? Who knows, but there'll be such a good defense, and we know how good Drew Holiday has been throughout his entire career. Derek White has been as well, but in the last couple of years has really taken a step up. So I think those two are dark horses to win that Defensive Player of the Year this year. Most Improved Player of the Year this year, I think will go to Victor Wembanyama. I think it'll be a situation similar to Ja Morant, where I don't think fans and a lot of people necessarily agree that he should get the award. It's just when you consider how much expectations on him. There's talk of him basically coming in and being Kareem. Is there much improvement? Where's the line between he's the most improved player and he's doing what was expected of him, which is what we have with Ja Morant, who was a second overall pick and then came in and took the jump from being a very good player to being an all-star. And then at that point, it was a case of, well, yeah, we kind of expect a number 2 overall pick to do that. That's what he should be doing, rather than your Julius Randles and your Lauri Markkanens, who took proper jumps in their career and went from being kind of unsure role players to all-star levels. So I think Wemby will win it this year. I just think the media will be behind him too much and he'll be very good again. I just think that'll be too much for him to get there. In the top 3, I reckon you'll have Cade Cunningham up there as well. Although he is also a number 1 overall pick, I think he's kind of stagnated lately in Detroit. They've just not been very good and he hasn't quite been able to find his way. I don't think, you can see he's got the talent. I think this year he'll make a big jump and show why he was taken number 1 overall in that class. But I think he'll get in that top 3 for the most improved player. And then I also think Jalen Johnson from the Atlanta Hawks will round it out. With no DeJounte Murray, I expect Jalen Johnson to be that number 2 guy for the Hawks. I know they've got the number 1 overall pick in Researcher there as well. I think he'll be looked to be more of an additive piece and that kind of third option behind Trae Young, obviously being the number 1 pick, and then Jalen Johnson behind him. I just think as a result, he'll get those touches that DeJounte had. He'll be able to take a step up and have a bit more of a role offensively. And so that'll be able to boost him up and potentially take that leap to being in those most improved player conversations, especially if the Hawks are good this year. I think he'll be up there. And I know all 3 of them are towards the favorites of the award. I just think the way the award's gone, it's harder to predict an out there name to really make that jump and do so. So that's why I've got those in the top 3. For the dark horse of most improved, I've actually got RJ Barrett. I think he's moved to Toronto where it's his home country, and he's got less pressure now that he's out of New York. It's not a case of, we drafted you 3rd overall, you're holding the hopes and dreams of the entire franchise on your shoulders, you're not living up to it. I think he'll be probably the second option behind Scotty Barnes for Toronto. They'll be able to play a bit more expressively. I think he'll just be a bit more relaxed, and I think that's what will help him. And I can see him making quite a big jump with those opportunities and the lack of pressure there. So I've got him as a bit of a dark horse for that most improved player award. Winning Rookie of the Year this season, I have Alex Sarr of the Washington Wizards, and I'll be the first person to admit I'm not that knowledgeable in regards to the draft classes and especially college ball and things like that. I just don't get a chance to watch it too much, and so I can't say I'm overly up to date with who I think will finish where. From the reason I've gone with Alex Sarr, as I should say, is that Washington are such a mess to have a number 2 overall pick. I just think he'll have the options and the ability to be free and bit of carefree nature when he plays, that I think that'll help him and give him more opportunities than maybe some of the other top players were able to. And so I think when you look at Washington as well, they're currently, you'd say Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole are their number 1 and 2 options. I'm anticipating Kyle Kuzma getting traded during the season. I just think he adds so much to a team, such as like if the Mavericks could get him, or if somehow the Pelicans could get him, some things like that, or the Cavs, things of teams like that who lack that kind of position. I think he can provide a lot for that. And so as a result, I just think he'll have that added opportunity and he'll be able to win Rookie of the Year. In the top 3, I have Reese Share from Hawks. I mentioned it before that I think he'll be the 3rd option behind Jalen Johnson and Trae Young. But if the Hawks are good, I think he still has the opportunity to show out, especially if he's on there when there's minutes, when Trae Young's not and he has those minutes to shine. I can definitely see him putting together quite an impressive campaign, especially because of the top picks in the draft, he's probably playing with the best playmaker of any of them. And Trae Young's going to be able to set him up for some good open looks. And so if he can knock down those and really contribute offensively and then be an additive on the defensive side, he can definitely make a charge. The fact it is so spread out in the rookie class, like it was graded as a draft class where there's not a big distinction between the number 1 overall pick and the later picks in the lottery. So it's a case where it's all up for grabs and anyone can kind of show out. It wasn't like last year when it basically was Wemby's from the start. The only reason they felt like there was going to be some debate is because Chet got injured his rookie year and so came in and he was then competing with Wemby. But even then, it wasn't overly close. And so this year's different. It'll be up for debate. And then I've also got in the top 3s Zach Edey. He's just going to be the ultimate role player for the Grizzlies, doing exactly what they need. He'll definitely not stand out, I don't imagine, but it may be a case when some of the other picks are all over the place where a Reese Share, who was number 1 overall, is then the 3rd option and maybe can't stand out. And Alex Starr's playing for the Wizards, who are a bit of a shambles and things like that. Maybe someone who just fulfills their role so well, especially if the Grizzlies are in the playoffs and towards the top of that, then that'll stand out and he'll be able to do really well, and that can get him into that top 3 base or get him up there for the Rookie of the Year win. The dark horse, I've gone with the Lakers homer pick of Dalton Knecht. I just think he can fit in so well to the Lakers side. He provides one thing that they're drastically missing last year, and that shooting ability and that offensive punch. He'll be the best offensive player off the bench for the Lakers for sure. And so I just think if he can really hit his shots and put up those performances, I think he can really show out and get that award. You saw him in the preseason game. He put up 35 and just went off. He scored 20 straight points, was absolutely nailing threes in the clutch. If he can do it, obviously not putting up 35 a night, but if he can just have little bits of like some runs in games where he's putting together a few shots to consecutively or hitting some timely threes and having some moments while also scoring, say, if he can average, say, 12 points a game and the Lakers are good, you can see him potentially being up there for the same reasons I said Zach Edey could be up there. I think that same role player vibe can be applied to Dalton Knecht this season. So I think he could be a dark horse to win it. Clutch player of the year, I've gone with Anthony Edwards. I just expect the Timberwolves to not be quite as good as they were last year, and that'll mean they'll be in a lot more of the clutch games and situations. And as a result, I think their offense flows to Anthony Edwards. He'll be the guy and they'll be hoping he can take a jump towards an MVP caliber level. I'm not sure he's going to be able to win it this year, though if he did, I wouldn't be overly shocked. And so I think with all those final shots and those clutch moments going to him, I just think he'll be up there to win the award. In the top 3, I also have Steph Curry, who's routinely known as one of the clutchest players in the league ever since he joined. He's been able to be up there in the same reasons I said. The Wolves offense runs through Ant. The Warriors offense will run through Steph as always. And so he'll be the one taking those shots and nailing them. So I can see Steph being up there for clutch player of the year. And then I've also got Luka as well. I can see their defense is a big concern. And as a result, I think they'll be in a lot of close games. And Luka will be able to carry them over the line and have that offensive punch needed to just simply outscore the opposition. And so I think that'll be a reason he can be up there. The dark horse was a difficult one because who knows with clutch player of the year, right? It's also subjective. You never know it matters about team performance and who's in close games and things like that. I went with LeBron more. It's a dark horse pick. It is my dark horse pick, but it's a homer pick. It won't be the last homer pick as well. I'm sure it's a surprise to no one. I put him just because I think if the Lakers are anywhere in those close games repeatedly, which they probably will be, if they start winning those, a lot of it will be off LeBron's back. And honestly, I put him there because if the league has an opportunity to give a 40-year-old LeBron clutch player of the year, an award he hasn't got, I can see a world where they do it. To be honest, that was one of the reasons I put him down. I just think if he gets an opportunity to win that award, he's in the conversations. I can see him just being the winner, right? So that's why I've gone with LeBron for the dark horse. Sixth man of the year, I have Dante DiVincenzo as the winner. I just think he'll be such a spark plug off the bench, as I'm assuming he'll come off the bench for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think it'll be similar to when I believe it was Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell were both competing for the award on the same team. I think it'll be like that between Dante and Naz Reid, the winner of last year's. I just think they'll be so crucial off the bench to provide that scoring impact, and for Naz Reid, that the rebounding and things like that. I just think Dante will be able to just shoot the lights off it. And you saw in the preseason game when he was talking trash to the Knicks bench about the fact he was traded and kind of some things regarding that. I can see where he wants to come out and prove a bit of a point because he was so good in the playoffs last year for New York. He'll want to carry that form through. And so that's why I think he'll be the winner this year. Naz Reid, I think, will be up there. I think he'll be in the top 3 again, just like he was last year. I think he'll just continue to do what he has done, especially with added pressure and opportunities with Karl Anthony Towns traded. The rounding out the top 3, I then had Malik Monk. Just always been a top guy off the bench ever since that kind of, I want to say, breakout he kind of had when he played for the Lakers, and then since he's gone to the Kings, he's been phenomenal. I think he'll be up there because I think he'll be massive for him off the bench the minutes when they maybe don't have Fox or DeRozan or Sabonis on the court. If he's there, he'll be the one probably the offense will run through, and so I think he'll be able to make a real case for sixth man of the year. The dark horse I have maybe isn't much of a dark horse for the nature of the player, but is actually just a outside shout depending on how the team set up and what their starting lineup looks like. I've gone with Bradley Beal. If they have him coming off the bench, he's such a good player still that as long as he's fit and healthy and plays the required games, he'll basically play starter level minutes coming off the bench, which I think will just be a bit of a cheat code for how good he is. He'll put up the stats. We're talking about a guy who's averaged in the 30s for a whole season. I can see him putting up the numbers to really get the award, especially if the Suns are really good this year, which I expect them to be. I expect them to figure it out. So I think if Bradley Beal comes off the bench, I think he'll be up there for the award this year. Moving on to Coach of the Year, I have Tom Thibodeau winning. I just think the Knicks will be really good this year. I think it'll be a case where he'll get rewarded for that in the media. I think Mark Danehill, the OKC coach, won it last year, if I remember correctly. Then Joe Mazzulla maybe won it the year before, but he's coming off a championship regardless, so he'll be up there. I think those teams will almost be so good the media may not want to give them that award, because it's kind of a case of, well, yeah, your team's just so good. Was the coaching really of impact? And so I think as a result, it'll fall to Tom Thibodeau, because the Knicks will be much improved from where they were last year. And so I think he'll be able to get it this year and make that claim. In the top three, I do think Mark Danehill from the OKC Thunder will be in the top three. I think he'll be up there because those young players will probably take a jump, and the OKC I expect to be so good throughout the regular season. I was going to have in the top three, I actually have Doc Rivers, mainly because I expect the Milwaukee Bucks to just be way better than they were last year, put it together more, and as a result, I think if they're up there for the improvement that's been made, there'll be a sentiment around how unfairly, fairly, whatever you view on it, he's been treated on or of late in the NBA community since his Sixers run ended, and how that went out, and whether he's the talk around his name and maybe not getting the same respect it probably deserves. I think coming back and the Milwaukee Bucks being good, I think that'll cause him to be up there in the top three. For the dark horse, I said I had one more homer pick. This is where it is. I think JJ Redick's got an outside shout to win it. I think it's a case of if the Lakers are good, like a top 5 seed in the West, and you can see clear improvements from what they did last year, so say they're taking and hitting more threes this year, their offensive rebounding's much improved, things of that nature. I do just think JJ Redick will garner a lot of favor with that. The Lakers are a massive team, and as such get a lot of media hype around them, and so it can at times be a bit easier for a Lakers coach or player to be more favorable in those awards as well. And so I think that could cause him to be up there. He'll have relationships with a lot of the voters and the people in the media, so if he's performing well, knowing the expectation he's coming with zero coaching experience, if he can also perform well because of after that, I think that'll go a long way, because when you'll then weigh it up from expectation to performance, he'll definitely have a case. The media, his friends in the media, I think then will favor towards him slightly. So I think he's a dark horse if the Lakers are really good this year. I think that's a shout. To round out my predictions, I thought I'd throw in as well who I think will finish in the Western Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, and who I think will win the NBA Finals this year. In the West, I think it's going to be the OKC Thunder taking on the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals. I think the Thunder will win that, and the MVP of that series will go to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Over in the East, I expect it to be the Celtics versus Knicks, with the Celtics winning that and Jason Tatum winning the MVP for that series. And then in the finals, I think it'll be the 2-1 seeds from this season, that it'll be the OKC Thunder, the Boston Celtics. The Celtics will win. They'll go back to back. They'll break that streak of teams to not of the consecutive years with a different winner. They'll break that and they'll go back to back. And I think Jason Tatum will win that finals MVP. I think he'll come out, play with the point to prove in that finals series as well. And I think if it's close, then also there'll be the sympathy towards, well, Jalen got it last year, Jason gets it this year. So I think he'll win that finals MVP this year. But that's my predictions. I hope you did all enjoy the video. Let me know your thoughts on the comments below as to what you thought. Please make sure you like the video and subscribe as well. Turn that notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. And yeah, stick around and watch the channel, because a lot more exciting content coming your way. And be sure to go back as well and check out some previous videos that you may have missed as well. But that'll be all for today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.